I felt so lost. I didn't have hope. I didn't know where I could turn for peace. As young as I can remember, my best friend in the church was named Rio. Rio and I were always really good at being there for each other in person, and she and I were best of buddies. Like, even though we went to different schools, Sunday was like a relief moment to get to be there and to spend time with her. We went on like that for years up until when it came out that her father had been cheating on her mother. And suddenly I lost my foundation, my person that I felt like really kept me anchored to the gospel. For the first time in my life, I didn't trust that I could share things with the people around me. It was a very lonely time and very overwhelming. And that led to this like deep distrust of the church, not because I lost her, but a little bit of like resentment towards her father. And I think just that combination of everything else that was going on in my life made me feel resentment towards the church, but also I felt rebellious. In the early part of 10th grade, met a young man who was very charismatic and very kind. So I wanted to befriend him and get to know him better, and offered to help tutor him in math when I realized that he was struggling and was really behind. And he totally took advantage of that generosity. And I remember explicitly that he told me, like, Korenna, you are so smart and so funny and so kind, but I only like you for your body. And that set the tone for more years to come. I was really torn because I had never dated anyone before, had never been offered like romantic intentions, and was being bombarded by physical desires. And I just felt so gross and uncomfortable. It just became the trend of our relationship that it didn't matter that I never said yes. I could feel my heart breaking. I could feel the weight and the fear that I'd been suppressing, thinking it'll all be all right. And I convinced myself that I could trick God, that it wouldn't matter if I had sidestepped the law of chastity, and then had all of the consequences of my actions come barreling down, and felt utterly worthless, and that there was no way that I could ever redeem myself in the eyes of the Lord. My parents saw the distress that I was in. My parents had a strong testimony of how church and the church education system and the gospel can work mighty miracles through educational platforms such as college. And so they encouraged me to go to apply. I did not want to come to BYU, Idaho, and I thought I would hate it, and I thought that everyone would know that I was a fraud and a fool and a slut for what I had been through. And so when the time came for me to look into colleges to plan for what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, I agreed that I should, because if it's that or nothing. I still felt like I didn't fit in. And even still, the intensity of the spirit that I felt in those initial classes was unreal. I began taking the Family Proclamation course, Eternal Families, and had an absolutely wonderful professor who really emphasized that the Family Proclamation is our goal in this life, but Jesus is so merciful and understanding that he knows that that is not the standard for so many people. I felt it click, that suddenly I felt that it was time for me to talk to a bishop about what I had experienced. When I went and met with the bishop on campus, I probably took up 2 hours of his time. And when I explained everything, he paused for a moment and then looked me in the eye and just said, "Korenna, I think you've held this long enough. You can let it go now." And he challenged me to give it to the Savior as full as possible. And I remember walking away and feeling so light that I wasn't unsavable, that my Savior still loved me and saw me and wanted me to come home. I chose not to receive my patriarchal blessing until after this experience. And the patriarch was a man that I had never met before. And during my blessing, I received a promise that there would be no blessings of heaven that would ever be restricted for me, that I could obtain the highest level of heaven if I worked towards it. This experience really opened my eyes to being comfortable with the idea that what I experienced was not a stumbling block, but a stepping stone on the path that would be able to make me stronger and make me a greater servant for the Lord. Now, 3 or 4 years later, I am endowed, I am married, sealed in the temple. My husband was the most loving and kind and attentive person who was able to provide guidance and comfort in ways that I didn't even know I needed. He never judged me for what happened. He loved me for the woman that I was and for the person that I was becoming, and held my hand as we walked on that path together. My experience and dealing with my own trauma and fear and refiner's fire has given me the opportunity to be a succorer for others. I can be that voice that he is there, that he is aware of them. My Savior has been there for me, and he has held my hand through hard times. And I know that I am being watched over, and that he watches over all of us, and that there is no love like his. I can say with all my heart, I truly have found my Savior, my Redeemer, my best friend, Jesus Christ.